Hi, church family. My name is Jesse, and I'm a sinner. So, I mentioned this the last time I spoke. In AA or NA, when you announce yourself, then everybody says hi. So, hi, Jesse. My name is Jesse. I'm a sinner. Oh, thanks. Yeah, there's a lot of correlations between that program and just the Christian walk in general. Thanks for joining me on the end of summer. Next is just a bunch of months of rain. Thank you for those watching and viewing. Hi, Mom. I don't actually know if she's watching, but yeah, okay. Okay, got it. So when I was first asked to talk for this series, I was worried, and to be honest, I didn't really want to do it. And that's because the assignment was to give your personal testimony and how that relates to a character in the Bible. And to be honest, the only reason I was hesitant is because I don't really have a good testimony. And what I mean by that is good in the conventional way. I'm sure you've heard lots of these miraculous testimonies, God bringing them out of a life of crime and drugs, saving their life, or in the mission field, these miraculous things, saving people from burning houses and all of these great turnkey moments that just turn their life around. I don't have that. And I don't know if you're like me, but growing up and hearing that in church, all these amazing testimonies, it was cool, but also I was jealous. Like, I didn't have that feeling. And for me, it's different. God played the long game. It was a series of small, minuscule decisions at that time that he was doing everything he could just to get me in a position where I was ready to have a relationship with him and accept him. So when I was choosing which character, one that always stuck with me was Mary Magdalene. That one, I loved her story, and I felt a kind of a kinship to it. You know, she had demons cast out. She came back 7 times and was forgiven by God. She sat at Jesus' feet and listened while Martha was cooking, and she anointed his feet with expensive oils. And there's a text that really stuck with me. Therefore, I tell you, her sins, which are many, are forgiven. That I like. For she loved much, but he who is forgiven little loves little. So I definitely resonate with that because I feel like I've been forgiven a lot, and over, and actually for the same thing over and over again. Slight problem with this, though. It's actually not Mary Magdalene that he's talking about. So in my studies, I found out everything I learned, it's not true. She did have demons cast out. They said they had 7 demons cast out of her. There's no mention that she came back 7 times and was repeatedly forgiven by God. I don't know where I got that from. That's not true. She didn't sit at Jesus' feet while Martha was cooking. That's Mary of Bethany. Totally different person. And they describe that too. And then this one, that we're anointing his feet with oils, she's described as a sinful woman. No indication that it's Mary. It could have been. That's possible. Except this is in Luke. So Luke, if you don't know, in terms of like the Gospels, he's the historian. He traveled around and collected all these firsthand accounts of experiences with Jesus and compiled them. And in Luke 7, he just calls this person a sinful woman. And then in Luke 8, he introduces Mary Magdalene. He took his 12 disciples with him, along with some women who had been cured of evil spirits and diseases. Among them were Mary Magdalene, from whom he had cast out 7 demons. That's the introduction. So it's possible that the woman above in chapter 7 was her, but he's pretty clear on who people are in his discussion. So that was pretty discouraging. I wanted to throw everything out the window. I'm like, well, this isn't going to work. And yet there was a nagging feeling, and there was still some kinship to what we know just of Mary Magdalene. So what was that kinship? So like I said, my story is the long game. So a series of events. So because of that, I gotta take you way back. I grew up in the church. I'm third generation, I believe is how it is. My parents' parents were Adventists first. Yeah. So, and maybe even one more. I might even be fourth. But we grew up, my parents had this weird, like, kind of dichotomy. Some things they were really liberal with and lenient, and other things they were really conservative with and strict. And one of the things they were conservative with was Sabbath. So we had to have Friday night worship, and we couldn't do anything fun until we finished Saturday night worship. And I'm the youngest of a lot of siblings, so I saw all their struggles, all their arguments, and I just learned my lesson. I'm passive, so I'm like, I'm just going to play their game. This is their house, that's fine. I'll do what I need to do, and I just worked that into my timetable. So it wasn't perfect. I mean, there were times I misjudged, and so I have like a car full of my friends. We're waiting to go out Saturday night, and I'm stuck in the house with my jacket and shoes on having worship. Just like, can we wrap it up? And then we go. So that was kind of my experience. I wasn't resentful. There wasn't a hate or a trauma from it for me. It was just like, that's just what you got to do. These are some of the things you got to deal with, and I'm okay with that. So I was going to church, but not really doing anything. God was more of like an abstract concept to me. In hindsight, this is kind of what was happening. The Savior is patiently waiting for us to open the door of our hearts and let him in. He's waiting for you, and he longs to see you come to him. So then we skip to high school. Actually, before high school, there's one moment, and this is kind of like weird and convoluted. If you don't know, I'm homeschooled, or was homeschooled till grade 10. If there's anything socially awkward, that's why. Don't blame me. But I did grade 6 and 7 together, so I was like a year ahead. And then it came time that I was ready to go to grade 10, and I was afraid. So I had the choice. Do you want to stay and do other stuff for a year, or do you want to go in? And I chose to actually stay back so that I was in my proper grade. That one decision changed my life, because in high school, my plan was to graduate, go move in with my brother in Edmonton, and we're going to live a great life. We're going to party. He wasn't in the church. I was hanging on by a thread, and it was going to be awesome. We were going to pick up women to talk. Just to talk. And we were going to, it's going to be a great life. And because I decided to hold myself back that 1 year, at the end of grade 12, they announced this new thing, which was like a workplace benefit. My mom was working at CUC, and I got half off tuition. So that with scholarships made it way cheaper to stay. That's the only reason I went to CUC, is because it was cheaper. Again, God is just trying to keep me in a place where he can reach me. Because I know for a fact, had I moved to Edmonton with my brother, I never would have been in church. But it's not that I didn't try and leave. I tried other things. In university, I'm like, hey, I'm going to be atheist. And I looked at evolution, because there was I took a bio class, and there were some pretty cool answers that they gave. And then so I went into evolution, and I was disappointed. They have some answers, but they also have a bunch of questions too. So both sides kind of left me with questions, and I couldn't get over the fact that I did still feel that there's a intentionality in the universe. And so I'm like, okay, well, that didn't work. Looked through other religions, and they, to me, kind of felt, and again, no offense, this was a young, dumb kid who was going through things, but they all kind of boiled down to two kind of camps. God is in us, and we're part of God, which I didn't understand, or you just have to try really hard and you got to be better. And Christianity was the one that said, you are flawed. That is a problem. You can't do it alone. That's okay. And that was the part that kind of stuck with me, because that was what I was feeling. I've tried to be good on my own. It doesn't work. But I didn't really care. And so I'm like, okay, you got to pick something. So Christianity is fine. I was biased. I mean, it's easier socially to just go back to regular Adventist life. And I'm like, sure, that's okay for me. I know all the things you do that are neither hot nor cold. I wish that you were one or the other, but since you are like lukewarm water, neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth. So that's me through and through. I had no offense. I wasn't bothered. I just didn't really care. I'd go to Vespers Friday night to see my friends or to pick them up so that we could go out after, just playing the game. Then as I graduated, you can see I put adult life in quotations because I don't do that very well. Then as I graduated, I started working at a treatment center. I graduated with psych, working at a treatment center. It's where I learned about AA and NA, and hearing these people's stories, what they went through. One, for an example, there was someone who came in. He's going to treatment because he recently overdosed, and how he ended up being saved. Essentially, his dad. They didn't live in the same house. He didn't see him. There wasn't any indication. His dad just got a nagging feeling while he was at work. And he's like, oh, something's not right. I don't know. I don't know what's happening. And it went on for hours and hours till the afternoon. He told his work, he's like, I got to go. And he drove 45 minutes to see his son, where he found him OD'd. And the paramedic said, had it been 3 minutes later, he would have died. So he had to leave work before his son even thought of using at that time. And sure, we can chalk it up to coincidence, but you can only hear so many of those stories before you start feeling like, I don't know, how many times is it a coincidence when it's actually something? So I did see examples of God working in people's life, the desperate. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess God exists. He works in people's life. Not mine. I had birds as a kid. Both flew away. I prayed for them to come back. They never did. So he doesn't work in my life. If you can't tell by now, I'm an idiot. And looking back, there's so many examples of things that I missed. But even going to OAC was a hoax. Not an intentional one. I moved out here, wanted to do the life of a starving artist. Got the starving part down. Still working on my craft. But I came out here and I started going to OAC because my cousin went here. And I didn't really know people, so it's a good way to just meet people. So I came intermittently when I wasn't tired from being out the night before or just being lazy. And through my cousin, I got a job with Kumar, who was a pastor at the time. I don't know does anyone remember the Let's Move Vancouver thing years ago? Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I got a job doing video for that. So when I talked to Kumar and he was interviewing me, he's like, okay, well, I'll give you the job, but I need you to start coming to church because I want my team to be present in church, which I think is illegal. I don't think you're allowed to use that as a stipulation for employment. But I didn't know that. And I'm like, yeah, sure. So that's why I was going to church. That's why I came to OAC, was because I'm like, well, I got a job and I'm used to going to church because I have to. So that's not really a big issue. But my dad I remember one time I was arguing with my dad because it's one of the few times that I tried to push back. And I'm like, why would I go to church? Why am I going to church? You know I'm not going to pay attention anyways. So what's the point of me going? And he said, because at least if you're there, you have the opportunity to hear it. You might not pay attention, but you also might catch something that God is trying to tell you. And maybe that wasn't Kumar's thing. Maybe Kumar's thing was just 100%. He just wanted it for his own benefit. But I feel like they were aligned on that. He's like, just show up. And again, those little moments of God just trying to keep me close enough so that maybe there's an opportunity to talk to me when I'm finally ready. And then my sadness hit. I had a phase, and I became sad. The thing is I don't know what it was. My life wasn't particularly bad. I had enough money. I was working in the film industry, and I was just miserable. And for those of you who don't know me, that is not how I normally am. And I usually am a happy guy. And never in my life have I ever experienced that. And I didn't even realize it, but it was insidious and kind of burning through every part of my life, my relationships. I remember I was complaining to my girlfriend at the time, and she just like rolled her eyes because it was something she heard a lot. And I remember like kind of stopping and being like, wait, do you think I'm unhappy? And she looked at me like I was crazy. She's like, of course you're unhappy. What are you talking about? And that's where it really hit me. And I was scared. Never in my life have I had to feel that. I mean, in grade 11, the girl broke my heart and it was horrible. But other than those type of things, I've never felt that. So I went on a journey to try and fix myself. Started reading self-help books. Started listening to like podcasts. And I wanted to become happier. And I came across this quote from Samuel Johnson, who was a American author way back in the day. The fountain of content must spring up in the mind, and he who hath so little knowledge of human nature as to seek happiness by changing anything but his own disposition will waste his life in fruitless efforts and multiply the grief he proposes to remove. So I read that and I was so encouraged. I was so excited. I felt like I finally have the blueprint to fix myself. All I have to do is just change my disposition and I will be content. That's great. So I did some digging. What does disposition mean? We always use disposition as like, oh, they have such a sunny disposition, almost like it's a synonym for demeanor. That's not what it means. It is a person's inherent qualities of mind and character. That's what disposition means. So all I have to do to be content is just change who I am. I just got to change my character and the things inherent in my mind. This is perfect. So from super encouraged to really low. I'm like, well, I don't know how to do that. And then I remembered the people at the treatment center who their life was changed by God. I remember all the times that I was forced to have worship at night. I remember going to sleep, about to go to bed, and my dad saying, do you have time for Jesus? I'm like, yep, got time for Jesus. But that was one thing he ingrained in me. Just have your personal devotions. So I didn't know what else to do. Self-help was kind of helping. I do think this is the blueprint. I just got to change who I am. And this was another verse that I hated. Now that I was ever in need, I've learned how to be content with whatever I have. I know how to live on almost nothing or with everything. I have learned the secret of living in every situation, whether it is with a full stomach or empty, or plenty or little, for I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. Growing up, I hated that verse. He's talking about I've learned to be content through everything, and I'm like, he never shares how, except it's the verse after. So again, I was an idiot. So that was what kind of led me to want to try God out, essentially. Paul says, I learned to be content through Christ. This Samuel Johnson says the only way to be content is through character, is by changing your character. So I'm like, great, I'll just do that through God. And I started having worship every day, every morning. And you know what? It sucked. It was really hard. It was tiring, and I struggled. I remember looking through and was looking to where the section ends. Where can I end? And I don't know what happened, but through it, I started learning about God, through Philippians, actually. I started learning about God, seeing his character, and it gradually changed. I don't know when it changed, but I still was flipping over to see how long the section was. But then it was to see, I think I can fit in one more before I have to go. And I got really, really excited until I was in song service here. I was on that side, and we're singing, and I'm crying, and I lean over to my friend, and I say, I think I love God. And I was afraid to say it because I've felt moments of this, camp meeting or like these spiritual revivals, but that always fleeted. And so I was afraid that that's just what it was. And that was the first time I said out loud that I remember ever saying, like, I love God. And I was 29. So 29 years of being around God and actually not caring until I actually got to see his character. So why do I love Mary? So the one thing is her past isn't talked about. That's where she just picks up. We got all these other amazing accounts, but we don't see her, like, what happened with the casting out demons. She just jumps in like, oh yeah, the girl that she had 7 demons, but we got rid of it. And the rest of her story is what she does after. It's not about her mistakes. It's not about the choices that led her there. It's just moving forward with Jesus. And then the second reason is more for admiration than me necessarily seeing myself in her. I aspire to be like her because she was there. She was there with Jesus. When everyone ran, all the apostles left. She was there. She was there at the crucifixion, and she was there at the resurrection. Standing near Jesus, standing near the cross were Jesus' mother and his mother's sister, and Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. And in every gospel, she's there. So she must have been around enough for people to take notice because every one of them mentioned her. We had her as, later on, she's described as the apostle of apostles. She was the one bringing the message of the resurrection. And that's what I want. I want to be there with Jesus. I just want to be there because I was forgiven much. So loving much, I feel like, is the least I can do. So whether it's 7 demons or 7 nagging sins or 77 nagging sins, like in my case, just remember that's not your story. You're forgiven, and the rest is just about how close you stay with Jesus.